So the book we're writing is called Charity for All, and it's based on Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural address, for those who are new, just so you can kind of be brought into the fold of what we're talking about here. And in that second inaugural address, he says charity for all. And he is saying we need to come back together. When he's talking about charity for all, it's not the handout model that we tend to have, it's the love for all. And that might be a handout, it might be stuff, but it might be, more importantly, it will be relationship. And that's kind of the whole point of the book. It's always going to be relationship. Stuff with relationship. It's a job with relationship. It's a home with relationship. It's all about the relationship ultimately. But it's love for all. And when Lincoln says that, I think it's one of the clearest pictures that we see in history where when he says charity for all, it's not an easy thing. It's really easy for me to love my granddaughters. They're precious, they're beautiful, they're fun. Even when they say something snarky, it's entertaining because they're little. You know, when they're little, you get away with a lot of stuff. When you're really old, you get away with a lot of stuff. In between, not so much, right? But it's hard to love those in-betweens. And so when Lincoln says that, it's important to realize who his audience is. They didn't have pay-per-view. They didn't have cable network. They weren't streaming it live. Like now you can see inaugurations. You see everybody who's there. But it's his audience, who was really there. And it's important to look out in his audience were business owners. There were slave owners who are just now losing their slaves. You had former slaves that were in that audience. And now how do we love each of those? Now the slave owner is going to need a different kind of love than that former slave, right? You can't love them the same way. It would not be appropriate to say, well, love is giving handouts, so you give all the slave owner handouts. That would not have been the right response. But for that former slave, it's going to be some handouts. It's going to be some job training, how do you live a life not as a slave sort of training. They didn't know. They had never experienced that. In his audience are former soldiers, people who were opposed to the war. You have the vice president who is struggling with addiction, who is already in the process of being impeached. When he is president, as vice president, they're already doing that because he had a drunken tirade in his inaugural address to be the vice president. You also have in his audience a man by the name of John Wilkes Booth. So when Lincoln said, I need you to love John Wilkes Booth, he's saying love your enemies. So this is a difficult thing. That's the reason why we're writing this book. This is not an easy task. It's easy to say, but difficult to do. How do I love people who disagree with me fundamentally? How do I love people who are just very different than me? How do I love people who are choosing, for example, the slave owners? They had chosen hate and oppression as their mode of life. They accepted that. How do I love that person? So when we're talking about loving, we're going to love some pretty horrendous people. That means we're going to love the people who are part of the Klan. We're going to love people who are opposed to that Klan and everything in between. We're going to love. And so that's what we're really working on. So today we're looking at Matthew chapter 10. We're just going through the book of Matthew, and we're looking at where does Jesus interact with people. And we're saying there's a lesson here. Somehow what he physically and actually did, how did he love these people? And so we're going to look at Matthew chapter 10. And we'll start there. So Matthew 10, starting at verse 1, it says, And he called to him his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal every disease and every affliction. And then he goes to the names of the apostles. I'm going to read those names real quick just so we can kind of have in mind who he's talking about, who's in his audience at that moment. The names of the 12 apostles are these. First, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus, Simon the zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. Again, I'm going to highlight the fact that this is a very diverse group of people. You have Simon the zealot, who the zealots, bless you or cough. I don't know if you say bless you for cough, but we can say that. You have Simon the zealot, who the people he's following literally kill tax collectors. That's their passion for life. They're going to kill tax collectors. And he's got a tax collector in the same crowd. How is he going to? He needs to love each of them differently than how he does. He's got fishermen. He's got other professions involved. The tax collector obviously being one. He's got He's got Judas, who's going to betray him. Comes back to Lincoln, loving John Wilkes Booth. He's going to love all these 12 people. And he's giving them instructions. Not only is he giving them instructions, we're going to focus on here, he's giving them authority to go out and do stuff. Now, when we think of being a Christian, we tend to think of going to church. That makes you a Christian. Well, you know, I sometimes hang out in my garage. It doesn't make me a car. You can go to church for your whole life and not really be a Christian. And a lot of times the people we refer to and say, oh, this Christian said this or this Christian did that, is someone who's gone to church their whole life, but they don't really know who Jesus is. It's not necessarily true. So there's more to it. So what is more to it than just going to church? What does that look like? Well, being saved, I mean dedicating your life, committing your life.
You have to live it.
One at a time.
You have to live it, not just preach it.
You have to live it. You have to get up every day and say, I am going to live this gospel that I've been given.
Your actions.
Actions. Actions speak louder than words. In an earlier class I talked about this, is that talk is cheap. Any chucklehead can say, I'm a Christian, but they don't actually live it out. It actually does damage to the kingdom of God when they do that.
I think that actions are based off of intentions, and that our intentions have everything to do with the way we intellectualize individuals, where they're at, and how and what level of intellectual mentality that they have, so that we can zero in on how do I assess this without judgment.
The other part is that we can't. Action is what we're talking about. But we also can't determine their intentions, unless they're saying it out loud.
No, my intention.
I can't look at anybody else and know their intention. A lot of times people will say and do things that don't make any sense to me, but it makes a lot of sense to them when they do it. So when somebody's doing something that's outlandish, what would it look like for us to say, maybe I don't understand why they're doing what they're doing. I disagree with it. I mean, I don't like what they're doing, but I need to take time to understand. So that's a key compartment of all this. Living the faith means I'm going to take time to listen and try to understand. It also means I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen to what you think and say about me. It may or may not change anything, but it's important that I take that in and understand. Because we need to communicate. This is a two-way street. So a lot more than just going to church, doing those sort of things. I do think the church has a role. The church has an important part to play in all this. And my pastor says this. He goes, this church is designed to be a training ground. I don't go to the church I have the time of worship. It's training my heart to hear him. I'm hearing preaching. I'm hearing and engaging in prayer with other people in the church. I'm engaging with the fellowship around my church. But it's not about the church. It's about becoming a training ground. And in a lot of ways, that's what the Gospel Res Mission can be for you. It is a training ground so you can go from here and live a better life. Now, what happens if you don't take in the training?
Then you don't live a better life.
You don't live a better life. Or maybe you get a worse life. So, well, I don't agree, so I'm going to go live the opposite way. And that's all part of the training too. I shared before, there's an educational concept that I take in and I study. There's a time and place where you need to be in church, and that's the only place you need to be around that. You need to be away from people in addiction. You need to be away from some of that. But there has to come a time when you're engaging again. And so they did this study on baseball, in baseball season going now. I love baseball. Great American pastime. I just love the sport. But they did this study, and they had guys learning how to hit the baseball, so batting practice. And they had a pitcher, and the pitcher saying, I'm going to throw you a fastball, I'm going to throw you a fastball, I'm going to throw you a fastball. They would do all these fastballs until this guy could hit the fastball like nobody's business. And they said, now I'm going to throw a curveball, I'm going to throw a curveball, I'm going to throw a curveball, I'm going to throw a curveball. And so they keep doing it until they can hit that curveball really well. And then I'm going to throw you a slider, and then I'm going to throw whatever, different types of pitches, but we're going to tell you what you're doing. Well, that's what most programs end up doing. They're like, okay, you're all locked down, you can't go anywhere, you don't get to interact with anybody in the community, you're just kind of trapped. And now you're going to be successful because in that house you will be successful. You can't fail because you're protected, you're guarded from all that. But what they found with that study is, well, you know what? In a real game, they're not telling you what they're pitching. In the real game, you don't know what's coming next. So you need to learn how to predict and understand what is coming at you. There is a place for that isolated, very controlled. But if you really want somebody to be educated and understand things, they need to be in the mix. What is it like in real life? And so this place is a lot like real life. Some protection, but that training happens with a liquor store right next door. It happens with people who are camping out around the neighborhood who are selling drugs or recruiting people to go to their encampments that are selling drugs and prostitution. If you're a young lady, don't talk to those guys at the encampment. They're trying to sell you. I just say that as a father who loves you and doesn't want that for you.
That's right.
So I tell you that because I love you. So don't hear me trying to say I'm not badmouth. I'm just saying that happens at almost all the encampments in Tulsa and in Muskogee. I want you to be safe. It's a training ground, and that's where we want to be. But there comes a point, too, when you have to take the training wheels off. We're teaching my granddaughters how to ride a bike right now, and so they've been doing training wheels. And as a parent, I was anybody who's been a parent who taught their kids how to ride a bike? I taught all three of my kids to ride a bike. And when they're on training wheels, they're all proud, and they're like, oh, look at me, look how good I am. And then there comes the day when you say, you know what, you can't be a grown-up on a 10-speed trying to do the triathlon with training wheels on. You can't have this permanently with the training wheels on. It's not a lifetime thing. It was meant for a season. But what if I never trained them to be able to go out with that? So training wheels are coming off. Training wheels are, you're going back out there, you're going to connect with society, you're going to be having part of all that. It's going to be scary. It's scary for me. It's scary for me to watch y'all go out. Bless you. It was scary for me to teach my daughter how to ride a bike, and I'm holding that back seat, and I'm running with all my might behind her, and I'm hoping that she's got it. It feels like she's got that balance, and I'm kind of underneath, kind of doing this whole thing as long as I can. And she got really good at going forward. It was just that she didn't know how to stop. And I remember she hit this tree head on. Then you feel like a failure as a father. I just let my daughter, except for I remembered when I was a kid, I did the exact same thing. Hey, honey, guess what your dad did when he was about your size? I hit a different tree because we lived in a different spot, and in fact the tree I hit, my dad cut down. My dad took vengeance on that tree. Way to go, Dad. Way to go, Dad. Love that. So, take the training wheels off. We got to learn this stuff in church and then go practice it. I'm going to listen to what they're saying in church. I'm going to pay attention to what this minister, the worship leader, the pastor, the Sunday school teacher, the side study, whatever it is that I'm doing, the fellowship, I'm going to take something out of what I'm learning and I'm going to go apply it to my life. So what does it look like to live the faith when you're in the dish room? So people work in the dish room. What is it like to live your faith in the dish room?
It's still good. You can talk to people and about Jesus and things like that, even in the dish line.
You can talk about Jesus, but what does it look like to live it? I mean, sharing the gospel is an important part of living it. But not just talk. Remember, talk is cheap.
You gotta walk the walk.
Sorry?
You gotta walk the walk.
You gotta walk. I mean, you gotta be doing a good job.
Right.
Having integrity. I mean, you're there when you say you're there, and you do the job. A lot of times people are on their phone their whole shift, and it's different jobs. I mean, not just the dish room. It's kind of all over. So do a great job. Do all things as unto the Lord. So if I'm doing the dishes, and when I was a dish room guy, this is kind of how the standard that I had for myself is, I'm going to do this as if Jesus is going to eat off of this plate. How am I going to clean this plate if I believe Jesus is going to eat off this fork? Or cook out of this pan? If I'm working at the desk, I'm thinking, how am I going to act if Jesus comes through those doors? And I got to be honest with you, he does. Inside of each one of us, he lives within us for those who have accepted. He walks in, so when he comes in, how am I going to treat him when he walks through the doors? How am I going to treat the guy out? I mean, crazy thought. Jesus could be hanging out in the smoking area. Am I going to gossip the same way if I believe Jesus is sitting at that table with me? And if I'm a custodial maintenance, am I going to look past that scrap of paper on the ground? No, I'm going to do the very best job. I'm going to fix that toilet to the very best of my ability, because that's exactly what Jesus would do. He would do that to the very best of his ability. And so we're living it. We're going to live it wherever we're at. So, again, faith, power, to share the gospel, to share faith. Now, we are a faith-based organization. I happen to believe Jesus is the only way to get into heaven. I think the Scripture teaches that. I believe that is truth. That is my belief. You're at a faith-based organization, but you're free to go use other agencies and go different places. And there's a lot of resources in town. There's a lot of places you can go. Not all of them, and most of them, in fact, there aren't a whole lot of faith-based organizations working out there. So what is your experience with your faith mixed with those organizations? If you have faith, what happens in those organizations?
You have to trust in God and let the presence of God be with you, because not every one of them are faith-based.
So let's say you're going to a non-faith-based organization to get your services, whatever those might be. I'm going to try not to use any specifics because I don't want to badmouth anybody. That's not my style.
Nugget. Pick the nugget you want out of it.
Pick the nuggets out. There's a theory that I've lived by since, let's see, it must have been 1994, 95. I had a teacher say this, gold from Egypt. So the gold that the Hebrews took with them out of Egypt was idols that they had to melt down and make into the tabernacle. So it's still gold. I'm going to take those nuggets. I'm going to take that and apply that. What are you hearing from people who are non-faith based when they're giving you services? What do they think about faith?
They don't want to hear about it.
They don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, normally you just hear what's in the black and white and they read the small print to you. They don't normally talk about anything else if it's job related.
It's very by the book. There's this, there's the study says. The studies can say a whole lot of things. So, and I'm not opposed to science. I believe studies are important. I'm not dissing that, but I could find a study to prove just about anything I want. All I do is go on AI, find me a study that says what I want to say, and then I can find a handful of studies that'll say that. What else? What else are you hearing? Well, what's your experience? What if you say, I really like to include faith in my treatment plan?
Negativity, because they don't want
They don't want you to include
They
faith.
don't offer those services.
They don't shut the door in your face.
That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to tell you that they don't offer those services.
Yeah, they can't.
They don't offer. Do they encourage it at all?
No.
They don't discourage it, but they don't encourage it.
Okay, so you're not hearing it discouraged. Anybody heard it discouraged?
Yeah.
At least one. Oh, faith can't heal you. Faith can't make you better. I want to tell you that faith can make you better. And that's what he's sending them out the power to do. It's not power to go preach. That's part of it. It's not power to turn bread, water into wine, which that could have been part of it. We're not told those stories. It's not power to multiply the loaves, so that could have been part of it. It's not power to walk on water, which could be part of it. That's all possibilities. Their power was for lives to be restored, lives to be healed. If they don't include faith, how healed can you be?
Because a lot of times they say it's not God, it's the doctors and people, but the faith is what got you through those doors, and faith is what got you to be able to go to that doctor, and then God uses those doctors to help you. It's still
And it
working,
can be.
it's still working through God, just in different forms.
But ultimately, even if the doctor's highly skilled, there's going to be that
Yeah.
belief that's going to actually get you to that healing and all that. Well, let me share another passage with you. I'm not going to turn to it right now, but Luke 2:52 says that Jesus grew physically, mentally, spiritually, and socially. He grew in all four areas. So let's say you go to another agency, you're getting your services from them, and they help you physically. That's good. That's part of it. And they also may help you mentally. They're going to give you some knowledge, saying, hey, this is what the exercise you need to do, or the medication you need to take. There's a mental piece of all that. But what is their treatment plan? They may say, we need part of a support group. So you have this particular illness, there's cancer support groups, and leukemia awareness, and heart, there's all sorts of different support. So maybe they get you to a support group. That agencies might do that. And that's common. You're going to hear that almost every agency serving you. But what if they don't include the fourth component of spiritual?
Then they're not treating the whole person.
They're not treating the whole person. And that's the whole point of this chapter is we want to treat the whole person.
And then eventually, you can't do any of it because you left that part out.
Eventually that's true. You lose it all when you don't include the faith component as part of that. And I realize that they're government funded, and so the government has this whole understanding and belief that I don't believe is constitutional, but they believe that you can't include faith in treatment. The truth is that was not the purpose of all that. The separation of church and state has to do with the state not telling the church what to do, not vice versa. So we got some real problems with that. And I think that's part of the reason why we have this increase in homelessness. Because they have separated out that component, the faith component. Because the common gospel, the gospel of social services, has these phrases. Have you ever heard variations of these? Do what feels good. Whatever feels good, do it. You hear that, that's marketplace. You hear that in commercials. If it feels good, do it. That sort of thing. This one is my favorite. You do you. So you can go do you any way you want. You can dress yourself any way you want. You can decorate yourselves any way you want. You can take any drugs or alcohol, all those sort of things. Live your truth. So I want to take us to another story on that whole thing. So Jesus tells this story about a man who's on his way to Jericho. He's going to go visit Jericho, and on his way there, he gets beat up. We don't know what took place that got him beat up. You know, they say robbers or whatever came in, maybe just unfortunate in the wrong place at the wrong time. But he's beat up on the left side of the road. I would say the modern robbers are those messages that I just read out. Do you? Oh, it's fine. You can take drugs. Your life's fine. You'll never be a mess. Your life was fine when you do that. How many have found that not to be true? When I did my drugs and alcohol, my life was not going well. It was unstable, unpredictable, and ultimately I was left beat up alongside the road. Not literally, but I was beat up alongside the road. Those drugs and alcohol destroyed my body. I have diseases. I have a disease, not plural, but I have at least one disease that I know of inside my body from that era of my addiction. And I'm frustrated over that. I'm still carrying that inside of me. That's not causing me any day-to-day trouble, but it's there. I know it's there. But I was left alongside the road. You do you. He's left side inside the road. For those of us who are believers, what we're given the power to do is to minister to that guy alongside the road. Rich, I see you beat up right there. I need to care for you. And caring for you is going to... I don't need to raise the hands, probably. But if you go out panhandling, and you're out there flying the sign, doing your deal, and people do it, how many times did you feel like you weren't even being looked at? They're looking the other way, don't want to see you. They're just going to hand the money to you. But it's a temporary help at best. When you get the handout, the handout charity, it's handout at best. That's what the Good Samaritan could have done. We would not have, the guy be able to say, oh, we're going to patch you up, we're going to get you the oil, the wine to take care of your wound, put the Band-Aid on you. And it was a sacrifice, because his Band-Aid would not have been from a first aid kit. I carry a first aid kit in my Jeep, and I got one in my backpack. It's not like that. He actually had to rip his own clothes to make a bandage in those days. So he's sacrificing. He's done it. But if he would have done just that and left him on the side of the road, that's what most of our society would have done. That's what those social service agencies often do. They're patching you up, leaving you on the side of the road. So again, coming back, some of you have a past criminal history. I know you're new, you're fresh, you no longer have that criminal mindset. But let's imagine you are those bad guys who beat him up. All right? And you see that guy, you think he's dead, so you walk away, and that guy's laying there, you're the bad guy. How are you going to react if you find out that guy's still alive? How are you treating that guy?
Get at him.
You got to get him. He's the one who could turn you in. Or you're going to, maybe rough him up a little bit more. Because you don't want him to go, if you talk, we're taking you out. See, if that guy's left there, if all we do is patch him up, if all the social service agency is patch you up and leave you in that old neighborhood, leave you in that old mindset, leave you in that whole place, the bad guys are coming back.
They're setting you up to fail.
They're setting you up to fail. And we have a whole different, don't give me too much of that, I'm trying to be nice. But there's a reason why they want you to fail.
More money.
I'll let you say that. I get in trouble when I say that. But I believe that's very true. And it's the reason why I had a conversation with somebody this morning that DOC dropped somebody off in the middle of the afternoon who didn't come here, but they were dropped in the middle of the day with no money and no place to live. Why would they do that? Because they get paid by heads and beds. As long as that is the standard of our land, that is what's going to happen. But what if
they have to have the person they're dropping them off to accept them?
they should at least have it arranged ahead of time. They know they're being released. Say, okay, on Friday at 2 o'clock you're getting released. They can call me, even though we don't do orientation at 2 o'clock. If they call me and we have this conversation, we can make those things happen. Other cities don't have those requirements, but they're going to have arrangements. But they don't want them to succeed. Because if they succeed, they no longer get that money. And I want you to carefully look at where the money goes. Something we're going to do in July is we're going to play a series of different movies, and one of those it's going to be for the community, and you're all welcome to come. It's not going to be required of you all, but it's an opportunity to learn this lesson. Follow the money. Whatever services and agencies are presented out there, follow the money. Why are they doing or not doing this? So DOC, what if they got paid by you not committing any more crimes for 6 months after that? What if prisons got paid by that?
Probably
They
gonna
take
do
all
their
the
best
money
to
away.
rehabilitate you while you're
Oh,
in
yeah.
there.
You're gonna be in, you're gonna get in classes, you're gonna be being educated, you're gonna be being prayed for, even by secular folks. They're gonna be doing everything they can, and then when they release you, they're releasing you to a nice home where you're gonna get the care and the support and the encouragement and the accountability to grow. So that's just one example, but think of all the different agencies you work with. Why are they doing this? Why do they need my signature right now? Where do they get paid? They get paid by appointments. They get paid by these other things. They don't get paid by you getting well. And so my message, and one of the messages of this book, is we need to change our funding system for these social services. We need to get paid people, like helping people actually get better. I also got to say, I'm in the minority who's teaching this concept. And so I get beat up by other agencies because I believe that and I hold that. Because I see the potential in each one of you. So.
I was just gonna say, some of it depends on whether or not it's nonprofit, because then nonprofits can adjudicate their own rules. And if they're dictated by the government, then they have to follow protocol and the standards of the government.
So let me just kind of cover that just real quick. I think that's a beautiful point. So if I'm a nonprofit, I have I can make my rules. And as a nonprofit, it doesn't take any government funding, I can make rules. But if the government's putting the rules down, is it really a nonprofit?
No.
It's a government agency. So I'm just going to throw that out and leave that out there. It's a government agency. So anybody who's taking government funds is a government agency.
And they're depending on taxes.
And there depends on taxes for people who are working to pay those, and if there's too few people working, we don't have the taxes to pay for those programs, which is kind of a problem we're running into today. But what if everyone in this room became a productive member of our community?
Then we wouldn't need the agencies.
We wouldn't need the agencies. And we'd have plenty of money in the coffers to do other things that we do need, roads, the structure of things. We wouldn't need police as much, so we could cut back on some police funds if everybody's living virtuous and good lives like that. And then we could actually do some real good. We can actually have some great progress. We could be funding disease treatment and cures for things rather than just temporarily doing it. So anyway, that's kind of the principle of that book. And so the final point I always want to make is, we tend to think sin only hurts myself, but sin hurts everybody else around you. And so if I choose to sin, it is hurting my family. So if I live a life of sin, I have a friend who his family name is kind of connected with some bad stuff in his community. It's not like a Hitler sort of thing, but in his community, his name was connected with this. He's not even really related, but he happens to have the same name. Actually, let me give it a better illustration. Andrew Jackson. How do you feel about Andrew Jackson? If you have the name of Andrew Jackson and you're Cherokee, how do you feel about Andrew Jackson? I mean, he's villain. And it's true for all men, but specifically the Cherokees. The Cherokees were actually, they were burned by him pretty bad. He pushed the Supreme Court said removal act not okay, and he made it happen anyway. He went over the Supreme Court. But the reason I think the Cherokee and the Creek Nation particularly are more hostile to him than you'll hear from other tribes is they were allies with Andrew Jackson in the War of 1812. They thought he was a friend. And there's nothing worse than somebody you think is a friend who does that to you.
Yeah.
So I hear it mostly because maybe it's not more friends with Cherokee, maybe that's why I hear it more from them. But other tribes feel the same way. But there was a guy running for office here named Andrew Jackson. And I looked at it and said, I don't think he has much of a chance based on his name. It might be better for him to go by a middle name. It might be doing something different just because of the name. Well, so if I choose to sin, Andrew Jackson has messed up that name for the rest of history. Judas has messed up the name Judas for the rest of history. Adolf Hitler has messed up the name of Adolf. I'm sure there were a lot of good guys named Adolf, but you're not going to hear anybody name that anymore. So sin does not just impact me, it impacts everybody else. I had a friend named Frank growing up, and he was, nobody liked him. And so the name Frank became connected with not liked in my head. So I have to think consciously of someone named Frank when that comes up. Because that name's true. So, same thing with sin. It connects and hurts other people. Sin equals brokenness. So I thank you all for being part of this conversation. I've enjoyed it. Let me pray for us real quick. Jesus, we thank you. We thank you that you believe in us. And I pray that you would help us to believe in us too. I pray you would move in our hearts, souls, that we can become all that you see in us. That when we look in your eyes, we can see your desire for our future and our lives. And I pray you would strengthen us in that. Jesus, set us free from those who are trying to keep us captive, trying to keep us in bondage. So we can experience more of you, experience more of the flourishing life that you've designed for us. Amen.
Amen.